Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Bhavin Asher, CTO of GRUBBRR, a self-ordering technologies company focused on automating commerce with its award-winning line of hardware and software solutions. Bhavin, I'm so excited to chat with you, not only to learn about your experience and kind of what brought you to building GRUBBRR and the amazing technology that it is today, but also kind of this whole revolution in the customer and kind of patron experience that restaurants and other kind of organizations alike are seeing. And I'm curious to see what insights that you've gathered from this whole kind of change and kind of allowing technology to kind of disrupt a certain industry that had kind of maybe fragmented resources or fragmented ways to completing a satisfactory customer experience. It's really exciting to learn about technologies like yours that are really kind of automating a lot of the frivolous processes, but also getting people through and out the door. So we'll get into that and what that means. But what were you doing before you started GRUBBRR?
So before I was in corporate America, tech companies. I was with Salesforce for around 4.5 years. And before that, I was with Deloitte. So did a lot of strategy consulting, business consulting. The uniqueness was I'm a tech person by heart, but I understand business really well.
Yeah.
So it was a very unique role at all the various companies where I could do strategy and talk tech to a CEO or a COO, right?
Yeah. And thinking about it, you have a lot of experience in machine learning in particular. Are a lot of companies that you were talking with looking to implement those machine learning models to the data sets that they have? What was kind of that kind of experience when you were talking to companies and working with this type of technology? Were a lot of people looking to adopt it? What's that like?
So there's a lot of euphoria around it. Like there's a lot of hype around it right now. I call it the hype curve. It is on the peak of its hype. Look, data is hard. The bigger the company, it's multiple sets of data and it's fragmented. And like especially the bigger the company, it's more fragmented it is. So it's an endeavor. But once you get it in and once you have that data, you can just do some magic, right? So like there are a couple of clients where like when you have to do a sales calling and they had so much data about their customer that they knew that what quarter to call which customer and what is the highest propensity to close, right? Imagine if as a sales guy I told you, call these 100 leads and out of that 100, 20 has a propensity to close, right?
Yeah. And describe in terms of once you have all that information accumulated, how do you identify what models to use? Are you building them internally as a company? Are you using kind of some outsourced information? How do you build the right models?
Yeah, so let's talk about GRUBBRR then. So in GRUBBRR, what we do is we use a lot of personalized upsells. So let's say Julian goes to the restaurant, he goes to the fast casual restaurants and his habits are pretty much the same. You don't like spicy food and you don't do onions, for example.
Yeah.
Now, when you walk up to the kiosk and you enter your phone number or you scan your QR code, if you're a loyalty member, it says, welcome back, Julian. These are your last 5 orders. And by the way, I know what you like. And we would suggest it's very intelligent recommendations because I know what you eat during lunch in April and what you have eaten the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, for that, there's no out of the box machine learning model where you can just buy and just use it.
Right.
So yes, you can use some algorithms, but then we add our own algorithm inside and then you create a model out of it.
Yeah. And describe a little bit more of GRUBBRR. For the audience, just give a little bit of context. Describe the technology, what you're servicing and the customers you service.
Sure. So GRUBBRR is a self-ordering platform for hospitality, restaurants, sports, arenas, movie theaters, stadiums. So think of anywhere where there's food and you need self-ordering, we are the platform, right?
Yeah.
Especially with COVID, with $15 minimum wage, employees are not coming back, right? We as people, as society, we don't want to do what we are doing. Nobody wants a cashier job.
Yeah.
Nobody wants certain jobs at all.
Yeah.
So we are coming in and filling the gap through automation. And that automation it's called the front of the house. So it's kiosks, it's QR code, it's mobile ordering, it's app ordering.
Yeah.
We do all of that, but we lead with kiosks in the restaurants and anywhere there's food served.
Yeah. And what does that mean in terms of how restaurants are now able to operate? Obviously, there's a lot of external circumstances, like you mentioned, decreased wages, and even just being a little bit more strapped as a company or a restaurant to be able to operate at high efficiency because profit margins can be a little bit scarce with food. And obviously, there's a lot of dynamics there. But what does that mean when they're able to take the load and automate that portion of the position or that, I guess, critical part of the experience for customers? How has that changed the way they operate?
So that's a great question, right? So we call it the operationalization of automation. So you can put a kiosk in or QR code, but if you don't operationalize that, the restaurant is going to suffer, right? They'll like, oh, this does not work for me. And you'll always hear when there's new technology adoption, oh, this doesn't work. But in its true sense, it's actually, it's a double-edged sword. You have to train the customer to now go to a kiosk and order food with touch. And you have to train the restaurant that, oh, the cashier is not there anymore. So how will you serve the food back to the customer?
Right. Right.
And we help on both sides. So when we put the kiosk in, the cashier position is no longer needed, or it's less needed in the sense where there's lunch rush, you have 2 kiosks, there's a 10 deep line. Now technically you have three people, 2 automated people, and 1 real person taking orders. Or that person is like, oh, the kitchen is getting backed up. Let me leave this to the kiosks. I'm going to go help the kitchen to churn out the orders faster.
Yeah. And what does that mean? Yeah. And I guess what was the biggest challenge, I guess, or learning curve? Was it training the customers or kind of implementing the operating model that would help these businesses?
Both. I would say both, right? The bigger challenge is having businesses adopt to the change. That's the first. So that is where education and training comes in. But then as a customer, the first 1 or 2 times they're a little skeptical, but then they get it. It's simple to use. Our UI UX is great on GRUBBRR side. So it's very it's all picture based. It's like Instagram or Amazon. You come, click, tap your phone or swipe your card and you leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And in regards to kind of the restaurant and the way they operate, what does that mean in terms of the overall experience that they're offering? Obviously there might be some pushback to implement technology. Maybe it kind of creates kind of a disingenuous experience, but I think more so it really creates what the consumer wants more quickly, right? We want our food, we want to order, we want to know what we're getting, we want it rapidly, and we want to have that experience kind of be very seamless. How have you kind of managed pushing restaurants or convincing them of this new type of experience that customers are actually kind of craving for?
Good question again. Imagine the job is easier for us, right? So when you put self-ordering technology, when you put GRUBBRR in with kiosks, it's pretty straightforward. You get instantly accretive, which is you're taking the cashier position out, so you're saving money on labor.
Yeah.
Constantly upselling, so your ticket size goes up by 18.5%, and kiosk never makes a mistake. So when you ordered a burger, extra onions, no pickles, and ketchup on the side, the kitchen will always get the same order. Versus extra ketchup, no onions, no pickles, and pickles on the side, right? You'll never get a mistake. So the error rate is 0%, so you save money there.
Yeah.
You get uplift of ticket at least by 15 to 20%, and you are saving on labor.
Yeah.
So then it makes a very compelling case. So even if you're on the edge of doing this, and that is when we as GRUBBRR tell the customer, hey, why don't you try this out for 60 or a 90-day trial?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when they come in and say, oh, this is great, right?
Yeah. And what's the thinking? We talked to a lot of companies that deal in just digital, right? Just software, selling that to different customers, direct to consumer, or different businesses. Describe the different challenges that you face having a hardware component and a software component, and how you kind of operate efficiently and kind of think about the connection with the customer when they have to purchase a physical object or use that. What's a unique challenge that you face, being that you have to work with both hardware and software in servicing your customers?
So that's a good point. Before I would say around 3 years ago, we would assemble our kiosk with 6 different components and then put software on top. So it was quite an undertaking, right? As a founder, when I got in, I did not know what I was signing up, right? It's brute force. You're going all in. You believe in the idea. I knew this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And frankly, I did not anticipate COVID, but I know this is where the world is going.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. But the major validation came when Samsung released their own kiosk in 2021 and on June. And then that was a major validation for a brand like Samsung to say, yes, we have a kiosk as a product offering.
Yeah.
And they went global and they couldn't find a software partner who could do everything we could. And now we are one of their top partners for self-ordering kiosks with Samsung.
So interesting.
That democratized the market and took from $7,000 kiosk down to $2,500 retail.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So now anybody can buy one, and doesn't matter if you're a small restaurant or if you're a chain who has to buy 1,000 of these, you can afford it.
Yeah. It's so fascinating thinking about these different partnerships that a lot of founders find themselves having, and it almost kind of supercharges their ability to get adoptability in the market that they're facing. Obviously, the decreased kiosk price opens up the barrier to multiple business being able to purchase it and having use of that technology. When you're managing a relationship like that and building technology, when it's not just in-house and you're communicating with another partner, how do you make sure that that is effective in regards to implementing the right technology, making the changes, updating it? What kind of relationship do you have with a company like Samsung to be able to not only create a great experience, but also implement your technology and update and iterate it when you have to? Do you have to consider them in your decision making? What's involved in that partnership?
It's interesting, right? So yes, we have to align our organizations in the back end to make sure we can sell together as a hardware and a software. And
Yeah,
it's just hard. Initially, it is harder. But when we go to the customer, we actually show one face and one company, right?
yeah,
And we do a lot of integrations in the back end. So for example, we do the printer, payments, scanner, loyalty integrations, point of sale integrations, and customers, they do not see any of this noise. They just
right.
see, oh, the kiosk is now in my store and it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of technology, I guess, is integrated in the back end, and how challenging is it knowing that a lot of these restaurants have like legacy technologies or don't even have, say, an infrastructure, still using kind of really rudimentary ways to taking orders because it's working for them. They don't maybe
Yeah.
there hasn't been a lot of value to update, but how challenging is it to literally plug in technology that isn't standard?
It is hard because it's legacy. It's all Windows 2000. That probably I was in high school, frankly, at that point. And then their protocols and the code they have used does not even exist anymore.
Yeah,
Or it does not get used anymore, right? And we are on the cloud. And that is one of the GRUBBRR secret sauce, where we are integrated to every major POS platform in the US and in Canada and in Latin America now. So it's we are getting global now. So we do like NCR, Oracle, PowerBrink, Square, Clovers of the world. We are
yeah.
always there.
Yeah. And how do
Yeah.
you get past a scaling problem in regards to you have so many different ways that technology can be utilized in different areas, not even just restaurants, I'm sure maybe events and all things around that nature. How do you kind of manage what to focus on and where to invest kind of time and resources to, being that if I'm you, I can see being very spread thin on a lot of different avenues that I want to go to because it's exciting to get the technology adopted. How do you maintain your focus in one direction?
Consciously, we made an effort 18 months ago as a founder, as a company, where we said we'll go after enterprise and mid-sized business, because all the innovation in the last 10 years in the restaurant space has happened at the SMB, which is
Yeah.
Clover, Toast, Square. They are all SMB customers. And there's no innovation in mid-size or enterprise. There's zero innovation. And we said, as a company, let's just focus, because there was a product market fit. The first issue was, is kiosk a real thing? Will restaurants adopt it? Yes, they will. They like it. They understand that this is needed.
Yeah.
Now, where's the biggest gap? The biggest gap is in enterprise or SMB. It's both. But where is the maximum value we can add as a company when you are in the initial stages? Is probably enterprise.
Right.
Because when you sell once, you get 1,000 doors versus selling it 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, yeah. And is it like a proof of concept kind of sell that you do with these enterprises? What's been the most effective kind of go-to-market strategy with working with mid-sized companies, enterprise companies, being that just inherently they have a lot of barriers to entry for new innovative technology. There's a lot of people who have to make decisions and kind of there's a lot of bureaucracy that maybe can halt a lot of companies. But how have you found a way to break in and then kind of start building out kind of almost like it's like a slow grow, it's like a farming kind of concept?
It is, yes, it is seeding and then farming.
Yeah.
Seeding takes a long time. You have to wait for the rain to come down.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of, so we seed it. The most important thing as a founder, as a new company, is there a product market fit? Because as a founder, you might feel that this is what's needed, but the restaurant has to tell you, or the industry has to tell you, yes, I need this, right?
Yeah.
So once you get there and you get some adoption, then it's trade shows, building relationships, and it's just a
Yeah.
slow, tedious, and you just keep going at it till you make the
Right.
relationship. Because the enterprise customer is usually it's not going Googling. Like a CIO is not going to get, oh, let me go Google and see if there's anything on self-ordering kiosk.
Yeah, yeah. In regards to GRUBBRR, I always like to kind of get a good gauge of the traction. So tell us a little bit as an audience to give us a little bit more context in how many customers are you working with? How many kiosks are out there? What has been the overall exciting part about the traction you've seen thus far, especially with behaviors changing after COVID, but also what's on the next frontier? Where do you look to expand to? What's pretty much exciting for you, not only in the next milestone, but in milestones to come?
So we are at 1,000 plus kiosks installed. So it's over 800 locations now. We power them. We power the whole SoFi Stadium with our kitchen display
Wow.
technology. We are in some major brands like BurgerFi, Duck Donuts, Del Taco is in pilot. Some really good brands. There's another big pipe which I still can't talk about because they have not rolled out. We also announced our recent partnership with Robert Irvine. Robert Irvine is Restaurant Impossible.
Yeah.
And he came to the office. He's like, I believe this. In fact, his latest book, which came out, has a chapter on why restaurants need to adopt to technology.
Yeah.
So Robert Irvine is actually now a partner investor at GRUBBRR. And that was a big, how do I say it, validation for us when
Sure.
a restaurant person comes in and says, you know what, hey, restaurants, you need this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it just for a certain, I know you said mid-market enterprise, I'm assuming more like chain franchise restaurants really get the seamless experience, but where does the kind of buck stop in terms of where the technology isn't necessary? Do you see it upscaling into other restaurants and other types of services, or you kind of identified the type of experience that certain restaurants will have and kind of carved out a niche in this market? How do you see kind of the growth of GRUBBRR in relation to different types of restaurants?
So good question. So yes, we have carved out that we are going to go after fast casuals and QSR.
Yeah.
QSR is a quick service restaurants. Initially, we were going after everything. And then we figured out, self-ordering does not work everywhere. It's a certain market and certain space. So it's restaurants, stadiums, movie theaters, airports. In fact, we signed a partnership with HMS Host. They are at all the 50 to 53 airports in the US, right? Every time you go to an airport and you eat at a restaurant, it's actually run by HMS Host.
Yeah.
So it's doing really well self-ordering does really well at the airport. So now it's airports. We are at SoFi Stadium and a couple of other stadiums. So it's stadiums and then restaurants.
Yeah.
The idea now is to go mid-size enterprise this year and next. And then we are already selling into small businesses today, but it's all inbound because people are like, oh, I saw that at BurgerFi. Can I have the same thing? And we are like, yeah, sure, you can have it. And it's $2,000, right? So
yeah.
And they're like, oh, I thought McDonald's has it and BurgerFi will be expensive. And that is the other educating piece we are doing as part of even this conversations. Look, it is democratized now. You can get it for $300 a month, hardware and software.
Yeah.
And you can help replace labor and increase your ticket size and help you fight inflation.
Yeah. I don't know if this is pure speculation, but I'm curious, kind of where did the experience of restaurants kind of become more challenging or the latency become more from ordering to actually getting your food? I just watched the movie Founder based on the McDonald's founders and kind of heard that story.
What?
I'm not sure how much of that is completely accurate, but the innovation there was the speed at which they deliver their service and the innovation behind the flow of service, right? Where did things get too complicated to where the places where you were supposed to order quickly, get your food quickly, that kind of fast casual became not fast and became a more involved service? I'm just curious, where have you seen that behavior kind of change?
Right. That's a good point, right? I think COVID changed a lot of behaviors, right? Yeah. And also McDonald's is a classic example. In America, we invented QSR. We invented quick service. Grab, go, it's fast, it's cheap. I want to go and get out, right?
Yeah.
And hence McDonald's, Burger Kings, and that Founder is a great movie. There's a show on Netflix, Food That Made America, I think. Amazing show. If you have not watched it, you should watch it. Like, it's a story about Domino's and some of these brands, how they have hustled and made their way up. So, but imagine that was invented in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Everything around that experience of ordering has changed. So think banks. In 70s, tellers were a great thing. You would go to a teller and wait for an hour. You had all the time. There were no cell phones. There was no busy life. There was no social media. There was no internet. So all you had to do is kill time. Okay, I'll go wait in the line to pay my check. You want to pay your salary. Sometimes you have to pay your paycheck. You have to go deposit in the bank to get the money, right? You can't imagine that now. You automatically get paid or you deposit your check through a mobile phone. Think airports. 15 years ago, you would go stand in a huge line to just check in your bags and get your boarding pass.
Yeah.
Now, a bank of kiosks or it's your phone, right? And only the last resort is going to an agent, even if you find that is if you can find one. So taking that experience to that Founder movie analogy is, yes, we have evolved as a society, and that experience, I don't think it has slowed down. It just needs to improve, which is cashiers or the people behind the desk are not like Generation Z or millennials, like we fall under. I don't want to talk to somebody. We don't want to talk to somebody. I would rather be on my phone or doing my personal stuff
Sure.
rather than taking your credit card. Nobody's paying with cash, and they're called cashiers.
Yeah.
But guess
Yeah.
what? Nobody pays cash anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just taking your card, or most of the times I'm just tapping my phone and I
Right.
pay. While the person on the other side has to just say thank you. So why are you there? Right?
Yeah.
So because of the society we have been involved and our behaviors have changed, restaurants or hospitality has to change. And that's what we are at the forefront of, where have a kiosk. It takes you are used to ordering on your phone. It looks very similar. So it's convenient. You order, pay, and now your food is ready.
It's so fascinating thinking
Right.
about also the experience you can offer at GRUBBRR, being kind of, I think everybody's part of some type of loyalty program that earns them kind of rewards. I think what was super popularized 10 years ago was having that little card that gives you certain benefits if you spend a certain amount, but nobody actually really got the rewards. I think I got one sandwich once for free, but it took a lot of money and effort and commitment. But I think companies are really thinking about engagement with their consumers a little bit more. You talked about obviously keeping track of what their previous order was, but how do you kind of think about the ecosystem of this kind of reward or community around companies that you order from, and even just using GRUBBRR as a vehicle to not only know your behavior for one restaurant, but also for another, and using that in tandem with what the consumer wants? We'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that kind of community experience.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? So at GRUBBRR, I'll give you I think we touched upon it earlier. Machine learning. I'm not a fan of using the word AI a lot. AI is
Sure.
very broad. It's machine learning. So I think you're right on target, which is, hey, how do I do machine learning? It's all about personalization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine your TikTok is personalized, your Instagram is personalized, your Amazon is personalized. We are used to that personalization without we knowing it. So when you go to a restaurant, it's very frustrating to repeat the order. And that's why that frustration or that customer experience is not the same, because that restaurant is just oblivious to who you are.
Yeah.
And if I'm in a neighborhood, and to your point, let's touch about that data analytics. So if you have a kiosk at 8 different restaurants in the same zip code with GRUBBRR's ability, now I know if I'm a vegetarian, Bhavin is a vegetarian. If I go to a bowl place, and next I'm going to a pizza place, and after 2 days I go to like another Asian concept,
Sure.
a poke bowl place, it knows I'm a vegetarian. Imagine I don't have to keep scrolling or keep
Yeah.
looking and ask who's vegetarian. The kiosk knows who I am,
Yeah.
and it shows me my 5 items which are vegetarian, and I can just order the same. It also, by the way, it also knows I don't like spicy food. Okay, so I'm going to show 3 items.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh wow, you know who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right?
training
That
those
is awesome.
recommendations are pretty, I mean, it's pretty special thinking about the amount of catered service up to that point and what it really means. But I'm curious, have you ever thought about things like, I don't know, like like out of the box section where you suggest kind of things that people don't regularly order to kind of enhance the experience?
We call it the chef's favorites.
Yeah.
Or we call it the order the odd ones out. Hey, have you tried basically like a secret menu?
Yeah.
We actually did it at one of our customers, and we created a secret menu and said, these are the 4 burgers which nobody orders, or usually nobody orders in this combination. Do you want to try it? It was a super hit.
Yeah.
The ticket size was $24 on that burger.
Wow.
Yes. Average ticket is $12 or $13 at a burger place. Because of that secret menu, they were like, oh yeah, it's $22 to $23 average ticket, because they're like, oh, I would take those with all those modifications you're asking for.
Yeah. It must be so challenging kind of organizing your technical team to both focus on how it can integrate best with restaurants, but also how it can enhance the kind of the behavioral experience with customers. How do you balance out what experience to really focus on and increase? Are you looking at data? Are you looking at piece of information? Are you testing things out in the market to really see where the focus needs to be built? A lot of founders kind of have, it's almost like it's a first world problem. And I have so many opportunities, I have so much things I can do with my technology on both sides of my market, but I don't know what to identify as highest priority. How do you do that as a founder?
So that's true, right? So whom are you catering? So we have a clear vision. I want to help restaurants. So at GRUBBRR, we want to create self-ordering platform which a restaurant can use and help with the labor challenges, inflation challenges, customer experience challenges, and how to differentiate themselves apart from other 20 restaurants which are out there.
Yeah.
So then we are very focused. So when we take that data, even though it's customer habits, I can go back to the restaurants and tell them how many average orders they are doing, what is selling the most, what is the food mix or the category mix they are having, and what should be served up for lunch in your drive-through menu board.
Yeah.
Because if your drive-through menu board is with 50 items, but I know at lunch you sell this 8, just show the 8 as top 8, right? And show everything on the second board. I'm now increasing your drive throughput. So
Yeah.
if I can get 20 cars in instead of 18, that 2 cars is 50. I just made the money in the first day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
We use
incredible
a
to
lot of
think
that
of.
internal data. Yeah, it's incredible. And the restaurants also don't understand who their customer is. They don't know how much Julian is spending every month. How do you know you have not been to a restaurant for 3 months? They don't even know. And maybe you're one of the highest spending customers.
Yeah.
There's no way to recall. They can only send a blind loyalty coupon.
Right.
Doesn't work, right? Like, it might not get you back because you are one of their top paying customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can now do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about external and internal, kind of taking a step back, what are some of the biggest risks that you think GRUBBRR faces today?
The biggest risk is adoption and education, right? So education on the customer side, which
Yeah.
is restaurants, because they feel, oh, it still needs to be personal. I don't know if technology will hinder my customer experience. And on the consumer side, it's training them to use technology.
Right.
So that is the biggest challenge. Like, why should I use the kiosk? Will I look stupid if I use it? Will I look, what if I don't know? Will somebody judge me?
Yeah.
But I think people are getting over it now because you just can't find labor.
Right.
And we are so used to ordering through our phones that it feels similar when you touch the kiosk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for GRUBBRR?
World domination. But
Yeah. Yeah.
no, the long-term vision is truly create right now, there is no business line which says self-ordering is a category of its own. In our space, categories are payments and point of sale.
Mhm.
If everything goes well, we want to be our own category. That GRUBBRR is a platform in self-ordering space globally or in
Yeah.
the US, right? And we
Yeah.
are everywhere.
Yeah. I love that. I always like this
Yeah.
next section. I call it my founder FAQ. So I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions and then we'll see what we
Right.
get. I always like to open it up with this question. What's particularly hard about your job day to day?
Slowing, prioritizing.
Yeah.
As a founder, you want to do everything at the same time, but
Yeah.
you cannot do everything. Everything is not a priority. One.
Yeah. What do you use to kind of help prioritize? Do you time block? Do you journal? What in particular has been valuable for
To the
you?
point, I follow. Yeah, I time block it. It's 4:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. That's the most decluttered zone I'm on. So I try to wake up by 4:30, 4:45.
Yeah.
There's no phones ringing. There's nobody awake. It's still dark, and I can get my priorities for that quarter, for that month, and for that week,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we break it down.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. The preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get lost into day to day and every hour, and it can be, you lose sight what
Yeah.
you're trying to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point. I'm always curious. Is there any unique way that a restaurant or a restaurant owner has used your technology that you didn't necessarily think was a possibility? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, so there was one restaurant owner, he put our kiosk in an office building.
Really?
Yes. And he said, okay, it's in the cafeteria. You can order and I'll deliver the food.
So smart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you bring it
He
directly
started
to the
getting
consumer.
10 orders a day. Yeah. Because you're in the cafeteria walking for coffee. Now you can use the kiosk to schedule your order and say, hey, delivered at noon. This way you're not paying. It helps the restaurant because he has to Uber Eats, and the third-party deliveries charge quite a significant amount of
Right.
order fees. And even you have to pay a delivery fee. With this, he was like, yeah, I can just deliver it from the restaurant and it was free.
Yeah.
So it was very unique what he did with that.
Yeah, bringing it directly to the customer, smart, right? Almost in their probably like I'm sure in their daily journey into getting whatever food or taking a break or whatever kind of keeps that experience so near and dear. And I'm curious, is there any way your customers aren't using your technology that you've thought of could be really innovative or really unique or really drive traffic in a kind of a more productive or increasing way?
Yeah, as a founder, when we started, I thought I can replace the POS in the sense where customers will put this in the counter and force their end customer to order from the kiosk. That did not happen.
Why that?
It's still skeptical. They're still
Right.
skeptical about it.
Right. Yeah.
It's slowly happening. So that adoption did not happen at the speed we wanted it. It's
Yeah.
happening, but it takes time. It's training and education.
Yeah, it's interesting that if you put it closer probably to the POS, system that it kind of confuses, but if it's adjacent to it and kind of auxiliary, it creates more of a unique experience that probably easier to kind of train that behavior, which is fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
I always like to ask this: what's something that you spend a lot of time on that you wish you could spend less on? Something that you spend a little time on that you wish you could spend more?
I would like to spend less time on all the process work internally. When you grow as a company and the amount of process you have to do to just get things done, I wish I could spend less time on that. I could automate everything, but I've realized automation, because when you grow, you're automating the business, but you have to then automate your internal business as well.
Right.
And you never think about that. That's such a heavy lift to automate all the departments.
Right.
That takes a lot of time when you go from a startup to a mid-sized company and after that, but from start to mid-size, you have to automate a lot of your marketing, your sales and ops together, your support and ops together.
Yeah.
So all that automation takes a toll on you. And it's thankless job because nobody sees that improvement as a company.
Yeah. Definitely true. What's something that you're good at as a founder?
Vision stuff. Yeah, wish there was more money or unlimited pool of money where you can keep inventing and keep coming up with new ideas, because there are so many new things which, as a Grubber, we are doing. So now we have we have conversational voice AI ordering. So what if you could walk up to the kiosk and just talk to it, right? Yeah. So that's next in the horizons now. But then the idea is, no, let's do what we have now better before we go to voice.
Yeah.
But I want to do voice now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
Add chat and add voice to it and include our proprietary Grubber algorithms, and now it's the smartest ordering engine on the planet.
Yeah, it's that push and pull kind of phenomenon. It's like you don't want to necessarily push too much for a certain feature set or something that you think is on the horizon, but you want to feel the pull of the market so that it justifies all the resources and everything, incentivizing you to actually build it out. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
What's something that you're good at as a founder now that you wish you were better at early on?
I would say prioritization.
Yeah.
And I would say prioritization.
Yeah.
Before it's like, hey, everything is an opportunity. Let me go build everything, because from tech background, as a founder, you can build anything you want, but then you don't want to over-engineer stuff too. Right?
100%.
You have to sell. Yeah, you have to sell, create a company while you're just making it, because you have to then train the customer. If you have too much, then it's very hard to train and sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to ask this question because I love how founders extract knowledge out of anything that they ingest. Whether it's early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most?
There are a couple, actually. There is The Art of the Start. I think it's Guy Kawasaki. That's a great book. And there was another which stuck with me, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Yeah. What did you get out of that?
Yeah. So 0 to 1 was interesting, right? Because it says you have nothing in hand and you're trying to do something, and it's how you focus so hard on doing one thing and one thing great versus doing 5 things together. Yeah. And that was my biggest initial as a founder. I wish I did not do 5 things. I did one thing and one thing really deep.
Yeah.
I
know we're coming to the end of the show here, so I like to make sure we didn't leave anything on the table. Is there any question I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything that you wanted to answer that you didn't get a chance to bring up yet? Anything come to mind?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Yeah. Good. Bhavin, it's been such a pleasure not only learning about your experience, but also GRUBBRR and how you're really kind of focusing on this underserved market, but really trying to advance it in ways of technology to really benefit in a lot of different ways, both outcomes and efficiency of the process, but also the customer experience and how quickly and we're getting serviced on things that we're wanting, and really creating a really cohesive relationship between the consumer and the restaurant that I think has been probably a need for a while, but I think COVID definitely supercharged that in the recent years. But last little bit is, where can we find you as a founder? And if we want to reach out or offer some support, give us your LinkedIn's, your Twitters. Where can we find you and be a supporter?
Yes, you can find me you can reach out to my website, www.grubbrr.com, contact us page. I have a LinkedIn profile. It's Bhavin Asher. It's pretty easy to find. You'll see me there. I'm not very active on any other social media, so LinkedIn or the website is the best way to reach me.
Amazing, Bhavin. It's been such a pleasure learning about your experience, your background, what you're doing at GRUBBRR. I hope you enjoyed yourself on the podcast, but thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it, Julian. Thank you.
Of course.